Hello and good, well, I guess morning, afternoon, evening, whenever it is that you're listening to us. This is the Two Dudes Talk Tattoos podcast, a podcast so great it will tear the pants off your hind end. I am one of your hosts for the show. My name is Ryan. You can find me online, the Better Tattooing website and YouTube and all the other stuff. And I own the Better Tattooing shop in Portland, Oregon. It's nice out today out here. It's actually sunny. Broken clouds, a little bit of rain, not too bad. Anyways, I don't know what the weather's like where you are, but I hope it's lovely. My co-host for this show, his name is Brian Matthew. It's with one T on that Matthew. You can find him in Rogers, Arkansas at the Tailored Fit Tattoo Gallery and online, Brian Matthew Tattoos, Brian Matthew Illustrations of Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. I'm not on the Instagram anymore, actually. Just today I decided, you know what? I averaged how many hours a day I would sit there and look at this stuff, and it wasn't very much compared to, I know, some of my friends. If you spend 45 minutes to an hour a day, that's 360 hours or whatever, a year. That's wild. Think about it, you have an average 40-hour work week. That's almost like 2 months of your life. That's just crazy. So I said, you know what, I'm just kind of done with it. I'm going to do things old school. We just opened the shop out here in Portland, and I figured, what we would do instead of just what everyone else says. They all say, you need social media to be successful, and I don't actually agree with it. I think that that's mutually exclusive to the idea of success. We've all been trained to think a lot, just to think about, what our like and follower count is, that we don't really pay attention just to the stuff that's going on around us. And I got to tell you, I deleted all those things off my phone, and I woke up this morning, because I did it last night. I woke up this morning, and I had anxiety because of it. It was weird. I felt like a druggie needing a fix. And I don't even use it that much. So I wonder what happens with some of y'all, if you're listening. If you have ever tried doing that stuff, what do you think? What happens to you when you decide to just maybe take a break? Or have you even gone as far as to actually delete that stuff off of your phone? Anyways, we're sticking with the theme this year, where we're looking back in time. So we have a special guest today, Professor Margo Demello. You can find her on TikTok. This is spelling her name, and she'll talk a little bit about her social media stuff. But this is an interesting show because Margo was in a very specific place at a very specific time doing her PhD, and was tied into tattooing when that was going on. So it's kind of a fun little romp through the woods. Maybe not as much energy as we normally have because, well, one, I stopped drinking when we're recording, so maybe that makes it easier to understand what I'm saying. But two, Miss Margo's got the most energy in the room with this one. So any hoozles. I think we'll leave you with this longer intro in comparison with how we've just had those canned ones in the past. And yeah, I hope you all enjoy the show. But before we hit play there, please, if you do like the show, head over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any of those other places, Amazon Music, and leave a review for us. I mean, even if you're listening right now, I'm probably going to be talking for the next 30 seconds. So just, unless you're driving, don't touch your phone. But if you're just sitting around listening, walk over to your phone, give us a review. Come on, people. Put us up there. We did great. We were in the top 10 in Apple charts a couple times last year. I'd like to stay up there permanently. Yeah. And past that as well, you can find some links in our show description if you want to support the show. We're not doing a Patreon or any of that stuff yet because this is so loose and just, I don't know if you guys actually want to give us money. But if you do like the show, just go support us. Throw it onto the Buy Me a Coffee. We got a link down there. You kick us $2 or $3 and help the upkeep of the show. That'd be greatly, greatly appreciated. We had a couple extra reviews come in as well over the past couple weeks. So thank you to those people who left such kind words about the show. We were really appreciative. So anyways, hope you all enjoy it. I'll see you on the back end. Bye for now. There's too much shit,
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah.
was like, man, I'm waiting for the time when maybe everything just goes for like 6 months, and I could just sit down and enjoy the writing process rather than feeling like, fuck, I just gotta rush through it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Except that you already know that it won't.
I know.
And so that's the
I know it sucks so bad. How many books have you read so far? You've written a just gag load, eh?
I think that my new one, which is on cryptids, which is coming out this year, I think that'll be my 13th.
Fucking
Um,
hell. Yeah.
but that one was the same thing. Passion project. I want to devote all my time to it. And no, it got done in the corners and the cracks. And it's not as good as I mean, that's
Yeah.
just what it is.
Yeah. It seems that nowadays, yeah, I don't know, everything I've been noticing, and I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older or not, but like everything seems to be more and more important, and everyone is rushed to get it done, and everyone needs this ASAP. And I don't know why. And I don't know if it's just all the digital stuff or whatnot, but it used to be that I could just not pick up my fucking phone and it was
Right.
okay. But
Right.
I'm doing something else right now. Now, if I don't answer a text message in 3 minutes, I've got to spend 2 hours trying to calm the person down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's probably just
Yeah.
my one complaining. Are you digitally connected? Are you plugged into the web, like social media and all that stuff?
I am, in
Yeah.
fact. Yeah.
Oh, right on.
My latest is TikTok. I've sort of given up all my other apps and I'm all about the TikTok now.
Oh, no kidding. Right on. How is that going for you? We just started one, and I can't spend much time on it. And I
You have
remember,
to, unfortunately. TikTok is
yeah.
a demanding mistress. She absolutely demands that you post like 3 times a day if you want to keep your views and your followers. It's really hard.
No shit.
And I only do it for fun, but then you get addicted to the validation and the feedback. So then you got to keep doing it so that you can get all the,
Uh,
uh,
that's hilarious. What was it that I read an article? I think it was on Wired, and it was called "The Enshittification of Social Media."
huh.
If you have a chance, you should read it. It's really well written. I don't remember the writer's name and such, but we're talking about how, like, when these platforms first come about, they're really for the people who are using them, and slowly they deviate into shareholder territory, just like most other
Mm,
things, right?
mm,
And they were talking about the fact that you really do have to be engaged in it and on it all the time, and you're on it so much that you don't start noticing like those little changes they keep making become more and more constant, and then you're
mm.
kind of like not liking the space that you're in. Whoa.
Yeah, that was Oscar.
Oh, hey, Oscar. Oh, what's up, Bubba? All right. So I don't know if Brian's going to make it on or not. He is in Arkansas, and they just got through a major ice storm that lasted a week.
Oh,
So he might pop in eventually. We'll see what happens.
okay.
But his internet, he uses Starlink, the Elon Musk one. We've talked about it at length. It's garbage.
Wow.
He's like up on a mountain, like in the middle of nowhere. Like the house is in the middle of 50 acres, and there is no lines running to him. So yeah, he's got this little Starlink thing, and that's
And
garbage.
is he a tattooist as well?
Yes, yeah, he is. Yeah, premise of the show is like I'm the science guy, where I talk about like and do the scientific research and stuff like that, and he is 100% the artist.
Ouch.
So it's normally us like kind of going back and forth about what's right or what's wrong or whatever. And last season we were doing a lot of talking just about like tattooing in general. But coming into the season of the show, we were really hoping to. Somebody's being cranky, hey?
He's he's a Bengal, and we
Oh,
got him for Christmas, and I've never had a cat like him before. He's from the shelter, and
uh,
he is like a predator. He is constantly working on attacking one of us. Right now, he's going after one of the dogs. Like, and you have to like because he is big and he's tough, and yeah, he's a
oh wow,
monster. Yeah,
jeez. Well, if you need to at any point in
yeah.
time, get up and run for your life. Just have at
Okay,
it.
okay.
So yeah. So, anyways, what we're trying to do this year is just talk about tattoo history. There's a lot of
Okay.
people I think who look at tattoo history as just that Western, like this is the families that started it from the carny life, and it's gone out from there. And there's not a whole lot of like really finite snapshots like we talked about before, where you're looking at these small
like dates or spaces in time where somebody has paid a lot of focus just to like what was happening here versus just the industry at large. And so of course, when we decided this season was going to happen, I was like, I got to talk to Margo because you did that. And I found some of your old papers on like JSTOR and stuff like that, where you had talked about like tattoo culture in like prison systems and like very much like understanding like the 1990s like tattoo culture just in general, like how things are moving. And so, yeah, that's what I wanted to touch on, like what you had seen, what you remember, and just maybe let the listeners of the show, contrast with what their own experiences are now. So yeah. So yeah.
I mean, I guess one thing I'm going to say about that period, and this is sort of it ended up being a perfect time for me to do the research that I did because it was a transitional time. Like it was a time when you could, in San Francisco, you could still go to a shop in the Tenderloin run by an old Chinese guy from Hong Kong, like that sort of thing. You could go, across town a little bit. You got it at Hardy's place. You could go again to another piece of town and you're going to get the military stuff. Like it was all happening at the same time in the same place. So it was really kind of a fertile kind of a place for everything.
Yeah.
Like I have a tattoo, one of my tattoos that I got from a guy named Broadway Bob. This is Sacramento now, not San Francisco, but as old school as you can get and also as terrible a tattooist as you can get. And his equipment was terrible. But I kind of love my tattoo because it's that piece of that past that is pretty much gone now in this country. That was also the day, and I did a lot of stuff with bikers. So besides the prison stuff, I went to just a lot of biker shows and, but it was again such a kind of a time where that was all still happening and where they hadn't yet been sort of displaced by kind of contemporary middle class tattooing. We also have a lot of kind of class changes in that era when a lot of working class masculinity all of a sudden became really sort of troubled. And so within that
Springsteen like springboard, right?
I mean, it's just a period of post unionization and post kind of all of the old ways that working class men knew that they could make a living and take care of a family, like those kinds of things had already been disappearing by that time. And so the tattooing was almost like the visceral, the corporeal remnant of cultural practices and cultural lifestyles that, have been moving out. Even bikers have radically changed now. I mean, Harleys are so expensive. Again, you've got these old middle class white guys now riding those Harleys.
Is it looking back at just that region, I guess, specifically like around like the San Francisco, whatever the valley areas, whatever there, is it, was it just like this, like you were talking about it being transitional between the two spaces? Is it weird because it was so progressive in one way but also so tied to the past that, like you say, you go to shop to shop to shop. How was the vibe? Like if you had these two times like butting heads with each other, was there a lot of collaboration or was it kind of, no?
No, the worlds were different. The magazines were different. This was also the era of the magazines. I mean, the magazines kind of were on the one hand kind of pushing the art forward, but on the other hand like heavily even making it more commercialized because you can take a magazine with a big beautiful Ed Hardy tattoo to your shitty local guy and say, hey, I want this, and I would see like very bad reproductions of like once custom work. The magazines were just kind of doing what they used to do, but then all of a sudden trying to keep up with what's happening in the new. And then of course you had Ed and the kind of the high scale, his Shotzi Gorman's magazines were kind of the high. And they didn't speak to each other. These were different worlds that did not speak. The only place that you had kind of overlap was at the tattoo conventions, the ones put on by National, because they're the more conservative ones. They're the ones that service the old sort of school. And so you would have both of those groups at those conventions.
Would people get along on the floor there? Were they like talking, getting along? Or was it kind of like
no, they weren't.
No.
I mean, it's kind of split. There's resentment. There's again kind of class is kind of a like a bit of an overriding sort of a thing through it.
Uh,
There's also, and I think part of it is if you look back at the rules that National had back then. I have no idea what things are like these days, but back then it was no piercings and no facial tattoos. Like they were trying to keep a handle on what was a culture that was already kind of spinning away from them, but they were trying to do that at that time.
yeah.
Because it wasn't just sort of the class discrepancy, it was also the modern primitives. And there was something very
Oh,
threatening about that whole movement.
yeah.
I think in the same way that today
Yeah.
it's trans kids, which, make everybody's heads just explode. Um,
That's actually funny 'cause you're talking about like the primitives. Is that like the gauntlet back in the day coming in with the
yeah, I mean,
piercing stuff and fakirs schools and stuff
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
All that stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and, you see somebody today with a big old tribal tattoo on their arm, and you're like, I think you probably got that baby in 1992. You know what I mean? Like, you did it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's cool.
yeah. So
Wow.
just the ideology, the tattoos come with value systems and ideology. And so when that's shifting, and it's probably shifting now as well, and I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue. Last tattoo I got, we were in Spain a few months ago, and we always get a souvenir tattoo whenever we're, someplace else. And, we just found a place. I mean, didn't know anything about them, but the guys that we got to do it were both, black fine line kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And we got just ridiculous tattoos, big smiling face. And they were like, what? Like they were kind of like really kind of, I mean, they enjoyed it, I think, but they were sort of like weirded out a little bit by it. And I don't know what Spanish tattooing is sort of like or anything, but they were not used to people that just got dumb stuff, which is all we had.
Yeah, it's been that Brian and I had oh yeah, Margo, this is Brian. Brian, hi. Can you hear us right now, dude?
Hey, I came
Yeah.
in at trans kids are blowing people's minds.
That's good, buddy. That's funny. I think maybe like whatever I was thinking was just like out of my mind. I'm like, oh my God.
Also at that time, the community was still semi small enough that like you could be a normal person and you could meet Chuck Eldridge and Ed Hardy and all the other kind of, it was, even though there was the kind of upper echelon and all that kind of stuff, there was still accessibility back then. And again, I don't know what it's like now with the top artists and kind of how that works, but back then, I mean, you could literally get your military tattoo, and the next day you could get something from from Tattoo City, and it just was kind of amazing. And again, maybe it's like this now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll let people kind of think about. What do you think, Brian? Is it like that currently, dude?
I have a wholly different opinion on tattooing, the categorization of tattooing. I don't think that there are many celebrity tattoo artists. Like we had a generation of what would be celebrity tattoo artists, and most of them have died off.
And you don't have a new kind of generation of people who are like somehow like defining the field right now or something?
From where I sit, there's not a lot of tattoo artists that hold the same amount of weight as those tattoo artists from previous generations.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
in some way, maybe that's just sort of also a reflection of just sort of economic changes in our society where, it used to be that you had to have certain kinds of background to get a certain kind of job. You had to have networks, and then you're going to have that job for 30 years, and then you're going to retire. And all of that, of course, is completely blown up. And I think that sort of a lot of the gatekeepers in the industry are gone now. And so it's just kind of much more wide open, maybe.
Can we talk about that maybe a little bit? What was the gatekeeping like back in the day? Like when you were moving through like social circles, did you have to prove yourself at various different places to move up and through those?
Yeah. And the apprenticeships were so hard to get get, and yet that was almost the only way in, because there were the schools, of course, back in the day, which were, crazy mail order courses, and then that changed, and then it was, you got to find a tattooist who's going to want to work with you, and then you got to hitch your wheel to his wagon for a good 10 years. Like, it was really a tight world.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that has radically changed now, and now it's not who you were friends with. Is that right?
Yeah, usually the time in studio learning the craft before you actually get in skin can be anywhere from the first day to the first 6 months until they say that you are a tattooer and you can basically go on your own. So
We should have had a really young tattoo artist on here.
oh yeah. No, well, so the idea concept is this: is we're gonna say our stuff, and then the listeners can make up their own fucking minds. Because fuck them. Margo's the specialist here.
Well, I was saying, like,
I used to be, again, many years in the past. I am not anymore.
Yeah. What's a good snapshot in time?
we have like a 20-year-old tattoo artist on here. Their experience for tattooing is so night and day difference from like just minor Ryan's version of tattooing, and our version of tattooing was so different from the 80s tattooing and 70s tattooing.
Yeah, ours we're like the turn of the millennia, like the beginning, that next generation, like the new school tattooers or whatever, when they came out past the 90s. But it seems to me like through all of our research and all the talking we've done, there seems to be a gap or a bridge where like the industry started to thin out so much. And I don't know if it's because of the gatekeeping or not, right up until the TV shows came out, and then everyone jumped on board. Like Spalding and Rogers was selling, I forget the number that they said, but they were selling hundreds of mail like order tattoo kits a day once those shows came out.
Wow.
And just cranking money.
And in the old days, and I don't remember if Spalding did it, but in the old days, the good companies, the ones who again kind of controlled the industry, they wouldn't sell machines to some fucking Joe off the street. They did not do that. And so just to get a machine, you had to kind of go through back channels. And so the fact that now, anybody who wants one, and I don't have a problem with that, but back then it was like, we're keeping because part of it was the professionalization of the field. And part of professionalization is, again, we're going to get rid of all the old stuff. We're going to get rid of all the old practices, even if it just doesn't make sense now looking back, but they were really focused on it back then.
Were they trying to like legitimize the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because besides national, then there was APA, I think, Association.
APC. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know, just like, I mean, somebody, I guess, had to do some of that work and make sure that everybody knows that like everything's sterilized and clean and stuff. And so I know they had to do some of that work, but looking back now, I think it was excessive. And I think it was, again, just sort of a way to control something that is ultimately not controllable. Like, do you really want to have an industry like in the old days of like union whatever, pipe fitters, where first you had to be white and your dad had to be a pipe fitter and your grandpa had to be a pipe fitter, and that's the only way you're going to get to fit pipes, whatever that would be.
Now I feel awkward because my dad did tattoos.
It's gate kept into this. Yeah. I know when I started tattooing, the dude who trained me had like 19 years experience. He started, I guess, just kind of at the beginning part of the 90s. And his explanation of how he got into it is he just started. So there's no gatekeeping. Now, mind you, his shop was not good. It was considered the worst shop in town. There was a bit of that derelict bridge. No, this was in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, actually. It was like a red-lined shop. It was right next to another guy who had been tattooing golly since like I think the 60s or the 70s. His name was Gary Shin. He was like the tattoo supply guy for Canada, at least on the East Coast. They were next to each other, and that's where you went for like most of your stuff, the shop, or go buy your supplies, this, that. But the dude who taught me was so fucking bad, man. And no one inside the industry there that had been established and like set up for a while, they would never talk about that shop. They would never be invited to any of the conventions. It was just kind of like this rat hole in the wall where you would just go if you didn't know any better, if you're a tourist and especially didn't know any better, or if you just didn't have a lot of money, because it wasn't even a minimum charge on stuff. It was just like fucking take whatever they got,
Yeah.
And yeah. So it's kind of interesting. I'm trying to think about like if that shop was to be invited to a convention, and I'm thinking even if it was a convention nowadays or 20 years before when I started, what the fuck would that look like? Because
Right.
nowadays they could go. There'd be no problem. You just pay the fee, you go. There's no controlling of anything. It's just kind of like open source stuff. But back in the day, there'd be no way you'd even walk through the front door.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, you were judged by also your tattoos as a tattooist, which is always weird because presumably you started getting tattooed when you were quite a bit younger. And so your early tattoos are not going to be good, but like everything was being judged. And again, maybe it still is, but I think it was because of the professionalization, and we need to get a control of this thing in order to be artists and in order to have the status that we feel like we should have. You got to clean everything up. Like I miss being able to go into a shop and the flash sheets and just be like, I just want that little Tasmanian devil for $20. Like I miss that. There's something so accessible about that. There's something so organic about that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of like the gatekeeping now. Everyone went full custom. You can't even bring in a design. You got to trust me. I'm an artist. You have no control over what you're putting on your body.
And I get it. I mean, we've all seen everybody's own terrible drawings, and I mean, I get that. But it's almost like, again, an inherently uncontrollable sort of a thing. We've got human bodies. But that we're going to have to try to control it anyway. But I'm glad to know that it's a free-for-all now. And
the pendulum swung way back hard the other way. Yeah.
Right.
All right. So there's two other things I want to talk to you about after this. I wanted to get into like feminism and tattooing, of course, down at the maybe the end of the show here. But when we were talking about like the cliques and stuff like that, like did you, through your studies and immersion in the culture at the time, were you able to kind of like identify each of the individual like cliques or spaces inside of it and like rank and grade them? Like I found one of your papers where it was like the lowest end of the scale, you had like the prison tattooers.
Right.
And so like if you were to work forward from there, like how would you classify the shops back then? Like how it was running?
Yeah, I don't have like kind of a way to sort of have the fine line sort of a thing, but certainly the specialties were starting to emerge. So I mean, it had been for some time. So the fine line or the photorealistic, so that was a distinguishing thing, and you were expected to have a specialty if you're going to be on the higher level. You're definitely expected to have a specialty and not to be, just sort of a jack of all trades, which was interesting because then when the shows come out, then you've got these people who are amazing in their style and they're like, I can't draw a hand, But again, you were expected to specialize because the idea is you're going to only do custom work and you're going to have clients come to you because of your specialty and, all that. And I think for some people, of course, it was, absolutely successful. But that's, I would think, not having done it myself, I would think that would be hard to stake your whole career kind of on a particular style. And because the trends go in and out, like, if you hitch your wagon to the, like, remember when everybody was doing all the like Geiger stuff and
the biomech
workings of the arms and stuff, like if you specialize in that, you did great, but then that shit went out of fashion. So, and I know those skills are transferable to other styles, but still.
That's super funny.
It's the dark ages of tattooing.
Well, it's funny that we're talking about history, and in some ways it wasn't history. I was around, so it doesn't feel like history. But that's just me not being able to grapple with being old. Like I'm teaching a class right now, Animals in American History, where we're sort of taking a journey through American history through animals, and all the students have to pick an animal, a named animal from American history that they have to do a research project on. And and they'll ask me things like, can I do, and then they'll name some animal that like was alive last year. And I'm like, that's not history. And then they're like, okay, we'll go in the 90s. And I still want to say that's not history, but of course it is to them. So yeah.
I want to do one on Ladybird. Is that okay? Like, that's not that. Oh yeah, fucking fine. Yeah, your parents might have been around, or not even been around when that dog is around.
Yeah. Yeah, my students' parents are millennials, I'm pretty sure. How young they are.
I think we covered a bunch of that stuff. I guess the other thing I noticed, because I went and bought a bunch of your books, is that you have written on like the idea of women in tattooing as well. So maybe to start on that conversation, if we were to think about like what the position or what the idea or concept was of women in tattooing at that time when you were doing your studies, like how were they looked at in the industry, and how did
that was another piece of sort of the transitioning. I mean, women had been getting tattoos within certain communities since the 70s and even before. But if we go back to like the 50s, they were lesbians and, whatever. So like, it was so terrible. But by the time I'm coming around now, it's now, sliding into the middle class. And that's part of why the door opened for women, because women are always expected to be the more sort of cultured one out of men and women, the ones who they're and there's lightness and there's manners and there's no cussing and all that kind of stuff. They're expected to demonstrate sort of the virtues of propriety in any given society. And so when I was younger, like in the 80s with my tattoos, again, people's heads would explode when they saw me. And now people don't even look at me. Like, that's how different it is. But part is because I'm also old, and old women, of course, are just invisible. Like, you just disappear from society. But the other thing that was happening back then, so feminism, had started already a generation earlier, but it takes a while for it to, slide into all the industries, and in particular, male-dominated industries. Mm-hmm. So that's why you had, and I don't know if you still have today, I think you do, there was female-owned tattoo studios that came up because they had to, because they weren't going to get jobs at the male studios. Again, you had your rock stars. You had your Vivian Lozanga and that woman in New Orleans whose name I forget. You had the rock stars, but for the most part, a normal woman wasn't going to get, because again, those internships, those apprenticeships are already so scarce. You're certainly not going to give that to a woman. So they had to kind of create their own separate spaces, just so that they could work, just so that they could, get involved. Now, of course, again, I was in the Bay Area. And so the rise of sort of feminist tattooing was linked completely with sort of the queer community there. And the two, I think, have always gone hand in hand. With respect to alternative sexualities and gender presentation and all that even today, if I'm non-binary and I want to get a tattoo, unless I know any better, I'm probably going to put myself in a women's studio because I don't know how I'm going to be treated. You know what I mean? At a studio run by men.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, one of the guests we're trying to get on in the next couple of weeks is Carrie Barba. Outer Limits down in, I think it's San
Diego, right?
San Diego, yeah, something like that. Yeah. And like her coming in and being such a strong force inside the tattoo community back then, and I guess I don't know what her story
is. She still tattooing today then?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Well, yeah, surprisingly enough. It seems like you could see a lot of that stuff happening, but like Brian and I both traveled quite a bit, and you get these like small enclaves where it's usually along the coastal lines, right? Where this stuff has been accepted and it's progressive and it's acting like this, but you don't really see a lot of that when you get into the central part of the country. So
right.
Is it like looking at
But
how
like I'm in Montana. I'm in one of the most rural states in the country. In fact, we're called like a frontier state because there's so few people here. It's kind of crazy. And I've been to the two tattoo places here in town. They're both like they could be in any other big city. Like they have, contemporary work and the artists are young and like it you don't have like a like a hick vibe. Like it's not actually here now. That doesn't mean that those places probably aren't in the smaller towns, maybe, because I'm in the capital. But so I mean, I feel like because maybe of the work that was done back in the 90s, the 80s and the 90s, that the level of professionalism has kind of risen everybody kind of up so that you can be in a fucking town in Montana and have good artists, which just would not have been possible back in the.
Oh, that's interesting. I never even thought about that. Like the base level of whatever competency that we're seeing nowadays for people coming out is that was like where people wanted to get to back in the day, right? Like the level of.
And now I feel like it's the base, which is good, right? I think it's the base. Although again, neither of these shops have flash on the walls except for just for decoration. And so to make those strides, I think there's some loss of history and culture, that had to be sort of swept away.
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, I've worked at a couple shops more recently that had some flash on the walls. Some of the younger people come in, they don't even know what's there. They're like, "What is that?" And you're like, "You can go look at it." And they'll be like, just flash tracks, custom designs through it or whatnot, and they'll be like, slowly like leafing through it, trying not to touch anything like it's museum art hanging up or something. Like, no, you can get that. It's just $150 for that, that turtle. Do you want a turtle?
Yeah.
Normally everyone comes in with their flash on their phone now. It's so accessible.
Oh yeah, sure.
You just come in, it's like, I want this. You're like, oh, okay.
Sure.
So maybe that splitting off of stuff has made it so that we don't have to have that shit more. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how artists, like, again, sort of if there were still rock stars today, like, is there a concern about protecting their work or making sure that it doesn't get ripped off? Like, or has that kind of concern disappeared?
Oh yeah. Brian, what do you think on that?
I think all of that shit's out the window, and it's definitely not any sort of great loss to culture. It's just culture advances. Right. It's almost a futile effort to even just draw Flash, because you could spend 800 hours drawing Flash and no one's going to get that tattoo done.
Right. I would.
Yeah.
If it had a dollar amount near it, and then it would make me, it would make me feel good.
Yeah.
It'd be like to the past again.
I think it's almost
there was also, I remember, and I don't know if this is still the case, city rivalries like Chicago, San Francisco, and then there was New York, which for most of the time I was doing my research, it was illegal in New York City, but there was still a really cool tattoo culture there. And again, I don't know, maybe those regional differences maybe have gone away now that again, the kind of the ceiling has or the floor has sort of risen for everybody. Hey.
We also have like the amount that tattoo artists travel now is insane.
Yeah.
Like a lot of us, we will travel once a month.
Wow.
So there's a tattoo show going on. There's at least 5 tattoo shows in the US every month.
Easy. There's one a quarter in Oregon, right?
And do you feel like the shows you have to go to the shows in order to maintain a reputation, or what's the purpose these days?
No, so there's a hierarchy to tattoo shows. Yeah. So there's what we just call local. There's really small shows for any local tattoo artist that can just go and have fun, etc. Then there's intermediate tattoo shows where you'd actually have to travel and you actually have to try a little bit to get into the show. Yeah. And then there's invitational, and invitational is your higher up tattoo show, etc. That you actually have to be invited to. You have to impress somebody to get into that tattoo show. And then aside from that, then it goes into international shows. And
those are invite
That's the
only at
biggest
same
stuff.
time. Those are the ones that's just like only if you've been in the magazine multiple times in the past like year are you going to be getting into, right? Those are the superstars. They're so insulated though. And I think it's because it's like recommendation wise. You have to know one of the guys who's already at the show who's going to say, yeah, you know what, like this guy's good. We should bring him on too because it's going to be good for this, right? So it's really insulated. But you don't need to go to those shows to build a lasting clientele or to even be successful in this. You don't even have to go to any of the conventions anymore to do anything.
Yeah.
You know, everyone is
guys
award
do.
winning. Yeah, every once in a while, but I think it's more just to like hang out now. We tried to go last year, but
I was character. So like I go for the sport.
oh yeah, Brian's hyper competitive.
So
hyper competitive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost a sport. You know, there's spectators, you're gonna work your ass off and hopefully, you know, like win the challenge, etc. Take home that trophy or that prize, etc., etc. But I mean, like most of it's all just for self amusement. You're not gonna get some grandiose thing out of it, you know.
Yeah,
you're still gonna go to your shop and be a scumbag tattoo artist.
It used to be if you won an award, it was special. But now because there's so many different grades of shops, like everyone's just like, oh, I'm an multiple award-winning artist. It's like, yeah, but you've only done regionals. Like that's not big. You know, if you've taken best of show at an invite only, that's a big thing you could start bragging about. If you take a best in show at an international, then that's like your career's done realistically, right? You're gonna be booked out 5-10 years just from that one trophy. So it's kind of a joke now. It's like a sport. Yeah, totally, Brian. It's like the major leagues versus, you know, single A, you know?
Okay. That makes sense. That reminds me, another thing about women too was like I never entered into any shows, mostly partly because my tattoos were always being worked on and I never had like a finished piece to like enter. But the other reason that I didn't was because I saw how women would be treated, which is to say that young, thin and beautiful bodies, regardless of how many tattoos or the quality of the tattoos, those were the ones that were most valued. And I am gonna hope that that's changed today, but I don't know.
It depends on who's judging.
Right. I was gonna say the cool part about that is that women, etc., also judge these tattoo contests and stuff now. So we do have fair trade, you know, like we have fair play going on.
There's just as much objectification of male bodies now as well, which is kind of nice.
Right. Everybody gets objectified now, so it's perfect.
Yeah, who cares? It's like whatever. I remember I was at one show, it was a few years back, and I was judging, and this woman came up. She has just this tattoo, and there was nothing wrong with it. That's the best I could say. It was just technically perfect. It was on a lady who was a little bit bigger, et cetera, et cetera. The other judges at the table were like, "Oh, that's not that good." I'm like, "You're smoking crack. Like that is the best fucking tattoo we've seen all day. That is the best tattoo, hands down." Like, no. We'll want to put it on this person over here. No. And we like almost came to blows. These say she won it. Came up, was like, yeah, this is awesome. The artist was like, yeah, this is awesome. And then we started getting threatened by the other fucking artists.
Because they didn't win?
Yeah. People just like when we were saying it's like hyper competitive. You know, sometimes when you do a judging and stuff, the artists come up like, hey, why didn't I win? And you'd be like, okay, well, this is what I saw, this is why, et cetera, et cetera. Other people will send their posse after you. I got stalked by like 13 dudes. They're like, you're full of shit. You fucking suck. And I'm like,
that's also generational, though.
Yeah.
It's younger or older people who are going to do that more?
Older people. So our age bracket is going to be way more aggressive.
Wow. Interesting.
Massive. Yeah, the
Although
younger.
part of that, think about the discourse around forgiving student loans and things like that. There's something that happens when you hit a certain age that you get fiscally conservative and you get selfish. So I had to pay my student loans. I had to work hard. And so you need to suffer just as much as I do, even though my college education cost $1.25 and yours cost, $500,000, but you you still got to do the same thing that I did. And I feel like maybe for the tattooist, it's the same way. Like, really?
Yeah. Oh,
you think
yeah.
you don't have to go through all the hoops that I went through to get
Oh,
here?
yeah. Oh, yeah. There's so much gatekeeping with that nowadays, especially. It's just like, I had a really rough apprenticeship, and I would never wish that on anyone, period. I
wish it
just
on
like,
everyone.
But isn't that normally the way that it works? You have
Yeah.
a shitty apprenticeship, and then you make sure that your apprentices also get
Let's
a
get a
shitty
shitty apprenticeship. Yeah, there's no
Like-
evolution. It's just digging in a
Yeah.
hole, burying yourself in it, and fucking just insulating yourself from any change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know
That's
what
so funny.
I think was cool about it? If you had a tough apprenticeship, though, like you could handle your shit in the most stressful environments.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
tattoo shops
Yeah.
have the potential to be incredibly stressful environments. You know, like anybody at any given point in time could walk in there and put a gun right in your counter girl's face. You know, like you want to see somebody throw a chair at that dude's head.
Yeah, that's super funny. Yeah, because wasn't even nowadays like everyone is they're trying to insulate themselves like the younger generation as well. When they're doing work, they'll like slap on headphones, and they've taken the idea of the person being a canvas, like so. Was it like they'll lock themselves off? They don't want to pay attention, and they just work, and it's just within the space. Was it like when you went to go get tattoos or the tattoo studios back then? Was there a lot more collaboration between the person and the artist, or was the artist really shut off and in their own fucking world?
I think it was kind of artist by artist, but I don't remember people doing headphones back then. Again, of course, back then was like Walkman times. Like, oh, we're talking about the Stone Age. I don't remember that. There was one, Bill Salmon. He sort of did that. He was always angry when he tattooed, which was weird because he was always stoned, and I never knew why that didn't work out. But he really hurt.
Oh yeah,
it's just so concentrated and so. But I don't think that was like for most of the time it wasn't really a thing.
That's so great.
Yeah,
that just reminds me of Brian. It's just like, don't fucking talk to me right now. You know, I tell jokes. I'm actually working on stand-up routines when I do tattoos, so it's fucking weird with me when I work.
I mean, that's what I want, and I think a lot of people want that. If nothing else, you want to be distracted from what's happening, and so you want to have,
I know, Brian. I know you actually do talk and you converse. It's just so much.
I leave it up to the client. If they want to start a conversation, then I will attempt to go along with said conversation. If they don't start a conversation, I will not start a conversation. I don't care.
Okay.
That's so awesome, dude. I'm like, hey, what's your favorite type of soup? And then we start talking, right?
I always say right at the start of the tattoo, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Just like that. It's probably my fault because there's no real excitement or anything to it when I say it. I'm a little robotic, but I'll say that and then go immediately into tattooing.
And then they're like, I can't say a word this whole time. I just told them.
Because he'll look and he doesn't blink too, right? It's just like right into it.
Oh no.
Do you have anything to say? Maybe? No? Just fucking go. That's awesome, dude.
So how did just bringing it up to more contemporary, how did COVID change the industry? Like, have you seen any kind of post COVID like changes in terms of how people, I don't know, anything?
Yeah, it might be regionally different with me and Brian. I know Brian's seen some changes, so what do you think, dude?
I would say like my tattooing itself and the way that I tattoo hasn't changed at all. It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
But I've had a lot of conversations with other tattoo artists that are like, when COVID hit, I only did like one tattoo a day and etc. and blah, blah, blah. And now this is just going to be my schedule for the rest of my life. Like they adopted the COVID way of life and that's how they work now. And I was like, guys, I've been doing that for like 10 years.
I think, some of the tech stuff, like I do most of my consultations now via Zoom versus having people come into the shop. And using tech that way to like try and like maintain and manage stuff has been huge for me.
Like everybody knows how to use it now, so at least that part is easy. I don't know, for me and a lot of the people that I'm talking to these days, like there's that whole discussion, the new normal. Let's go back to normal. What's normal? And I'm like, we just went through and we're still going through like just massive global shit.
Yeah.
And I don't understand kind of coming out of that, not changed in some sort of fundamental way. Like I do my research differently. I write about different subjects. I teach differently. Like, I don't know. Anyway, and I don't know.
I think,
I mean,
stylistically, I think things were on a pause for that entire time, because normally we'll see like a fluctuation and change its style or something that's hip. That kind of like, like every 3 to 5 years you get a bit of a rotation down as things start to be cycled out. And there has been no change except until like this year's things are starting to change a little bit. But
that's
through the past couple, it's been the same things happening over and over again. And I don't know if it's just people were so just stuck in one spot that they couldn't get out and start experimenting more, or maybe it's just the same things being shown over and over on social media because there wasn't
because there's nothing new. Right. Well, it's interesting because think about other kind of collective stressful times. So wartime, and wartime is always good for tattoos.
Always.
Or even things like 9/11. You know what I mean?
Well, actually,
that whole rush after that. But this was a different one. Like this was one that like it brought us all into our houses and kind of shut us off from the world. Are you seeing anything though, like from these other kind of social movements that have been kind of exploded alongside of the pandemic, like Black Lives Matter? Is that more a part? Do you see that? Do you see? Yeah.
It's really interesting. And this is a weird way to go about it, but because of the war in Ukraine happening, a lot of the Russian and European tattoo artists have actually come to America.
And
these guys, they destroy tattoos.
They're so
really
awesome good. Yeah.
So what kind of stuff are they doing?
Oh, just the most artistic, greatest stuff on the planet.
Shit off the world right now.
But it's been really cool keeping track of it because they've come to America, right? And if you go over and you look at tattoo art and stuff like that from Russia, Poland, England, etc., like it's so awesome. Even Spain and etc. But they've come to America, and it's like they kind of hit a brick wall because they're really capable of doing amazing stuff. But they got introduced to Americans, and Americans are the worst tattoo clients.
And
is that true?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
absolutely.
It's like regionally as well. You're going to get like different spaces where the European influences trickled into it, right? It's like genetic drift, but we'll have artistic drift coming through, right?
Okay.
So we're going to have the coastal areas are usually going to be 5 to 10 years behind whatever is hip in Europe, and then it slowly starts to taper in. Like Middle America right now is just starting to hit fine line, and fine line on the coast. Is it becoming
the new generation of fine line tattooing is way different than the 90s version of fine line black and gray work. So we're saying fine line, we're talking about a whole new thing now.
Modern fine line tattooing, not like shamrock stuff or something.
And how does it differ?
So, like, if you were to think about fine line black and gray back in the day, you would almost immediately picture Jack Rudy and all these dudes from California, and then you'd have the Latin American community in Chicago doing Chicano style tattooing. A lot of that was fine line black and gray, and it was super smooth and super sharp and really cool. And when we flash forward to today, fine line black and gray tattooing is just a group of idiots doing the worst tattoos possible.
It's unfinished.
It's choppy. It's full of dots and weird shit. The lines are just really chopped up and gross looking.
It's kind of like a blend of like graphic novel-esque type of like heavy use of black and gray and pointillism.
Oh, I like that.
If MC Escher had like fucking
Baby with Warhol.
Yes.
It's just all of the above. It's very lithographic and it's terrible.
Looks like unfinished Muka work. Like before you put in any of the color and stains, that's what you get, right?
Yeah, it all looks like a rough idea of what a tattoo should be.
Yeah. There's no more smooth shading in the industry. Like smooth shading has actually it's just kind of gone. Like everyone is just aggregating dots together now, in the hopes that 5 to 10 years they'll start to smooth out and not texturize. So, but that also kind of goes hand in hand, I think, a lot with like the hardware changes that have happened. Like the coil machines of yesteryear are no longer like really in use. They're kind of, they become novel tools. Well, nowadays the rotary machines, which is like the prison style machines, that's ubiquitous.
That when we were in Spain, they were using those, and I was like, wait, what? But they were smooth and like it was like being licked by a kitten, like really nice. But I couldn't believe it because that's how out of touch I am now with the scene. Like I didn't even know.
Yeah, you used to be able to tell a tattoo shop when you walked by it by how many people were actually in there, if it was busy or not, because of like it was cacophonous, right? You had to play the music loud because there's all these machines running and you're yelling at your artist talking and stuff. And now you walk in, there's smooth jazz playing and you don't even hear a hum. You know? I like breaking up the monotony at the shops currently, and I'll set up a
it's almost kind of sad too. Like
too quiet.
Yeah, you know, like back in the day, you could be at a tattoo shop and there's just the overwhelming smell of green soap in the air and the buzzing from all the tattoo machines. You know, it felt cool. It felt like being at the fair on a Saturday night or something. And now when you walk in, it's like standing in the middle of a library and you don't know what to say to anybody.
Right. Or just an upscale nail salon or something.
Yeah, it's like walking into Bed Bath and Beyond or some shit. It's just like, there's tapestries on the wall. It's fantastic.
Yeah, there's something to be said for it being an experience and something different from your life, something different from what you're doing. That's how I've always seen it. Like
maybe that's like a big difference. Was that really pushed when you were like going to the shops and stuff back then? When you went in, it was to like a change out of the norm. It was like you're modifying yourself.
You felt nervous, like, you know what I mean? Like you already were starting to get yourself keyed up because the space and the people and, you know,
nowadays, we don't see that at all.
I mean, like
the guys hanging out the way the guys used to just hang out in shops. Like I haven't seen that.
You don't do that. You're not allowed out in front of storefronts anymore. No, get in the back by the dumpsters, boys. Like it doesn't happen. Like, everyone would always be sitting out, and everyone smoked. So you see everyone against the wall. They'd all be smoking. Hey, how's it going? The cars drive by. People are honking. Hey, that's Jerry. Hey, Jerry, how you doing, buddy? You know, and it was like a community thing. And now the doors are closed. They're locked.
Right.
You know, you gotta do so much to get in.
Right.
Yeah, if you really thought about it, like every tattoo shop used to be just a scene from the movie Clerks. And they're like, now you just don't get that.
Boring people
it's
talking
really
over
strange.
each other.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. 'Cause I'm so nuts. Like Brian knows how nuts I am, but like one of the shops I work at, when I'm not there, people are just like, I guess it's really boring. So every time that I'm scheduled to come up, the shop is fucking packed because I'm like, you know, and I've got coils going, I'm fucking doing kicks and shit and just being stupid. So everyone seems to have fun. It's a nice, fun experience. But then I've gone up some days when I'm not scheduled up, and I'm just walking by, hi everyone, and everyone's just sitting there all on their phones. You know, the client's on their phone getting tattooed. Somebody's got headphones on, they're working. There's no TVs on, there's no sound, there's not even music playing. It's just dead.
Yeah.
I'm like literally the entire exact opposite of that. So like everybody has a really great time while I'm not there, and the moment I show up, everyone has anxiety.
Oh.
I walk in and it's just like, what are you doing? Why isn't the floor swept? Why aren't you drawing Flash? What the fuck? Where's your artwork? Etc. Etc. Why are you dressed like this? What are you doing?
Oh, that's great, dude. That's great. Oh man, I don't know. Is there anything else that you like to add, Ms. Berger? This is just fun chatting with you. I feel like we're just like hanging out. So this is great. So
I know the only thing that's missing is getting a tattoo at the same time.
Fucking A. Well, is there any plug you'd like to do? Tell people where they can find you. If you got a TikTok, you said you want to get some followers.
Yep, and I got my I don't know. I for some reason I've never like used different names for my social media, and so this one TikTok, it's my full name. but I share really intimate details of my life. I'd like use it as kind of a form of therapy. Like my TikTok followers have diagnosed me with ADHD this last year. I'm like, what? So anyway, so I
Nice.
am easy to find there.
Oh, that's cool. All right. Well, awesome. Well, I guess we'll stop the recording now. Thank you very much for coming on. It was fun talking with you.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll say goodbye now.
All right, that's going to be it for the show so far, I guess. We ended up recording actually a lot more after that, but I'm just going to save it in the can and see if y'all like these shorter episodes rather than the ones where we talk for like 3 hours. So if you do, let us know in the, I don't know, we have a social media thing. I think we have a Facebook. Yeah, we do. You can head over to Facebook. Let us know on the social media if you like these shorter, little bite-sized ones, or if you like the longer ones. Either. We'll do what we can with that. Yes, we want to say thanks to Margo for coming on. Super duper cool. She's been helping me write a book for about a year on the history of tattooing in the Western world and the idea of ownership in tattoos. So that'd be a fun sociological / anthropological study if I ever actually end up getting off my tushy and doing it. Yeah, in the coming weeks, we got a couple other people we had hinted on the show coming on as well. And if you know of anyone who may actually want to come on and just talk about some tattoo history, let us know. It's always cool to get this stuff and spread it out. We all know, if you're in the industry, how insular that the world of tattooing is. You know, there's trade secrets and trade histories and families and this and that. And I think it's all, kind of silly myself. But yeah, if you know someone else who wants to come on, just let us know. Drop us a line. It's going to be fun. Past that, thank you again for listening. Like, subscribe, review, all that other stuff. Give us money. I don't know. We love all of you for listening and actually putting up with our stuff. And we're almost a year into it now. So this is weird. I don't know. Thank you, everyone, again. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks. Yeah, because we're bi-weekly now. Anyways, bye.